how much talking I can do before the hound from hell next door, owned by the incompetent owners from hell, starts yelling and screaming like he does it all day and night. We'll see. So yeah, I had another moment of growth this evening. I am, as I've mentioned in previous videos, I am doing work with my cat, which may sound like a joke to some people. It may sound like it cannot be done, but the truth is that we form, we work on ourselves in relationship. And in the absence of human close relationship, we can still learn things and do things with other mammals in relationship. Some people, there's a great chapter on this in the Pete Walker book, how some people experience love and unconditional acceptance through pets. There are some people who learn how to care for themselves, by learning to care for something else vulnerable and relate to it in that way, kind of like that movie Free Willy. Anyway, I've been learning through my emotions that my cat provokes in me, and then I have a process of questioning, and I came to an interesting realization this evening. So I was in bed, like winding down, and then suddenly I hear this giant clattering crash of like dishes, and I'm trying to hear, I'm like, I'm trying to hear, think if it's coming from my neighbors downstairs. So I'm like, surely that couldn't be coming from my apartment, could it? And then I hear a cat yowling. And so I'm like, what the heck? So I turn off the fan in the room, which is like making noise. And so I'm like trying to listen. Nothing. I go out there and there's Maurice standing there. And she gives me this weak kind of meow. And I'm like, what the? And so then I'm like, like, is she okay? Because like you hear the crash and then you hear the yowling. And I'm like, did she knock something over and now she's like bleeding out or something? Like, fuck, I just don't have the extra bandwidth for anything these days. I'm like, ugh. So I go and I pick her up and she's fine, but she's like wet. And I'm like, what is this? So then I look and her little water dish has been knocked over. And I'm like, okay, I don't know why you did that, but like, all right, let me go and refill the water. And as I'm refilling the water, I'm thinking, it's not like her to act like that for no reason. I'm like, I think she must have been reacting to something. So I went back, and when I put the water down, I looked directly up, and on top of, where this ceiling meets the wall, was one of the like geckos that comes around in here, minus a tail, which I didn't see anywhere on the floor. So being her gross little self, she probably ate it. And yeah, I'm just like, oh my God, Maurice. And I felt really bad for this little gecko. I couldn't reach him. She can't reach him either. She didn't see him. And I started to feel some annoyance. Now, if you guys remember my other video I made called I Tried to Fight a Mexican Street Cat and Got Schooled, there was a cockroach in the room in her old place, and I was mad that she was getting scared and she couldn't catch it. And then I realized that, I was like expecting from this cat what I had expected from other people in the past. And I was like projecting that all on the cat in this situation, which made no sense. And when I saw that little gecko, I felt bad for it. I like having those geckos around sometimes because like they eat, the bigger bugs. And so I like having them around. And the other night, there was a cockroach in my bedroom. And then the other night after that, there was one in the bathroom. So I decided to keep, like, there's some windows that are open always to the outdoors without a screen. which is normally not a problem here, but like with the weather changing, now like bugs are coming in, mosquitoes are lasting longer. It's October and there's still mosquitoes. Like it's just such a travesty. So I decided to keep those windows closed after that. And I hated catching those cockroaches. It's so disgusting. And I was feeling kind of irritated because I felt like, how come my cat didn't see it? How come she didn't do anything? You know, the cat is literally good for nothing but like this one fucking thing and she can't do it. And I'm like, oh no, those feelings are coming back from that video. And then tonight, when I see that she went out of her way to attack the gecko, I felt really annoyed because the gecko is actually useful. Like, why would she attack the gecko and not the cockroaches? So, and it just like irritated me really badly. And I know it sounds like completely ridiculous, so I started kind of questioning it for myself. And then I kind of realized that this was obviously the cat did literally nothing wrong. The cat was acting the way a cat acts. The problem was in me expecting more from someone who could not give it. And this has been, like, even just saying that, I feel like, you know, when you put a drop of soap into some, like, water with a residue and, like, everything just clears out, like, just hearing that is just so powerful for me. Because I feel like once we kind of realize that, we are set free from expectations we put on other people and from the pain that can be caused. You know, like in my romantic relationships, I repeatedly chose cowards. And then when they acted cowardly, I'd be angry. And yeah, I grew up around cowards, weak people, people who were heavily influenced by peer pressure and trying to impress losers, right? So I think that just recognizing in that moment, wow, you can't get mad at a cat for acting like a cat. You can't get mad at a coward for acting like a coward. And, you know, even when it comes to people, like over the past couple of years, like out of desperation and kind of like wanting to give people a chance and kind of like, no, this person has so many good things, like these red flags that I'm seeing. And this is like in the realm of like business partnerships, friendships, etc. I'm like, you know, the good things are really good. So I'm gonna like try to talk to them about the red flags. I'm gonna try to work with the red flags or like avoid them, and maybe it'll work out, you know. I tell myself like, you can't only interact with people who are perfect, you know. And then it always comes back to bite me in the ass, like every single time. So if I meet someone who does not listen when I speak, but they want to offer me like a great place to stay and they want to offer this and that, and people who have no awareness of my experience in contact with them, people who have a low capacity for social empathy, but they want to do like whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's nice. They want to do a business, whatever, blah, blah, blah. That is going to come into that interaction. It's not separate from, this is part of who this person is. This is part of the package they come with. And if that behavior is not acceptable to me, I need to not accept the package they're offering me. And yeah, I just felt really released from that realization with the cat this evening. And it's, you know, I felt like when I started feeling that disappointment of like, why the heck would the cat go and attack the gecko who is actually useful in the house and leave the cockroach? Like, it just pissed me off. And I'm like, how can you expect a cat to know that? You know that cats are curious. They attack things that they are interested in attacking and they ignore the rest. Cats are unpredictable and cats are selfish. You knew that. Why are you getting angry? You chose to still have the cat in your house. And I think I'm always, you know, the way a person is or the way the person acts is the way they can be expected to act. This last place that I moved out to, the woman who lived there before me told me some negative interactions that she'd had with the neighbors, like very specific situations. Like, this guy did not pay the electric bill, so my electricity got shut off, and then he told me an exorbitant amount to get it turned back on. This guy said I could cross his lawn to access the property, and then one day he changed his mind and started yelling at me and then apologized profusely the next day. And I was like, oh, okay, that's good to know. And I'm like, that won't happen to me. And like, the exact same thing literally happened to me. Word for word, play by play, except for the part about the exorbitant amount for the electricity bill, because I'm pretty schooled and stuff like that. And when it got cut off, I'm like, oh, I'll just go pay it myself. I'm not going to him and like, can you please pay the electricity bill? So he could tell me, oh no, it costs 5 times the amount now. No, I just went and paid it myself. And well, they didn't like that. So that's another example. Somebody told me, hey, this person is dishonest. Hey, this person has an anger problem. And I just thought, oh, I'm sure it'll be fine. you know, I'm sure it'll be fine. It wasn't, right? So I know that people are not perfect, but and like I know that I need to interact with people in order to live in this life, whether it's people that I sell to, people that I work with, people that I rent from, buy from. And are they all going to be perfect? No. Are they all going to meet my minimum standard for being a decent human being? I mean, I can't quite know that. But I think I'm really going to pay attention to things that I notice about people, the warnings that I get. I'm not going to assume that it won't happen to me. I say, well, that dog bit you. It bit the last person. It bit the person before them, but it won't bite me. I don't know. I mean, it's just delusional thinking. I don't know. Sometimes I just really want things to work out, so and that's another thing. I just really want things to work out, and I want things to be peaceful, and I just think communication can solve everything. But as I've said in previous videos, behavior is communication. So if someone is behaving in a certain way, they're communicating, hey, this is what matters to me. This is what doesn't matter to me. This is what I think of other people. This is my level of respect for other people's boundaries and wishes. This is, they're laying everything out by their behavior. It's not like I need to go in there and be like, okay, hey, I heard about this thing you did. Let's have a discussion about it. I have done that before. It's like such a joke. I don't know. I think that when you go through a personal development journey, you wake up to that point where you're like, oh, well, we just need to discuss things with people, because, and then we can figure it out. And then you get to the point where you're like, no, you don't need to sit there and discuss things with people. And there's a great quote by Richard Grannon that really helped me when I was trying to get out of my marriage. And he's like, abandon sincerity with the insincere. And that just like blew my mind, because that's what I have been trying to do my whole life. Again, starting back with my childhood, where I was like, oh, I'll just explain to my mother what she's doing. I'll just explain to her that these people are bad, her behavior is wrong, blah, 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 blah. And then, like, that'll solve the problem, right? I remember I had this, oh gosh, I'm in my early 40s and I still feel very much like someone just waking up from a trance or a long sleep. That is how I have lived my life. And I remember when I got out of that, my, I would, that long-term relationship in my late 20s. And this guy, he just was, really, really obsessed with social credit and trying to make friends with people, especially women and everything else. And I just had this moment after I got out of that relationship. It was like maybe 2 years had passed, and I was like, oh my God, I don't have to be friends with these people anymore. So I like went through my friends on Facebook and I deleted like all of his friends. Like I kind of felt this obligation to like kind of be friends with them. But like there's so many of them I just like flat out did not like and had bad experiences with. And they were, my first kind of like experience with like the quote unquote spiritual community, right? The new age spiritual community. You all know exactly what these people are like. And there were a couple of gems in there who I'm still like in contact with, but the majority of them, and I mean 99% of them, were just goodbye. But there was one girl who was like cheating. She was like single and she was like friends with me and, my boyfriend at the time. I feel so embarrassed talking about boyfriend this, boyfriend that. Oof. And she, like, I don't know. Anyway, so she was like actively cheating in someone else's marriage. And I just felt like really uncomfortable being friends with someone like that. And guess what I thought, y'all? I thought I could talk to her about her behavior. I thought I could just communicate. What the hell are you communicating? Hey, you're making decisions in your life that don't work for me. If you want to be friends, you need to not do that. Like, what? This person has shown you what they're capable of. They've shown you what they care about. They've shown you their values. They've shown you what they do. Who are you, Adele, to think you can go in there and be like, hey, I don't like what you're doing. Can you stop it? Like, no. I honestly can't think of literally a single time when this has worked. So it's like really weird to come around and accept that the majority of people are just very, very, very low quality at this point, probably worse than ever. And that's part of the decade, I use the term decade, this era. It's part of the era that we're in the fourth turning. We're in the time of weak men, okay? This is when people are just like acting out. They're very wicked, they're very vile, very selfish, lacking in empathy, lacking in insight. They're definitely under demonic influence. And we have to be very, very discerning and very, very patient and very, very grounded and aware within ourselves. And that is what I try to do. I try to work on that every day. And I have met some really sparkly, lovely people along the way. And I think people who meet me and who know me in real life also have that impression of me. I've talked to them and asked them, and I've had some volunteer that, without prompting as well. And that's because, I do have a lower nature, but I don't give into it. And if I am like not able to deal with someone in a fair or charming or empathetic or open way, I will isolate myself from them until I can figure myself out. Like I don't go and like work it out on them or, enact it out on them. And most people don't have that kind of awareness or self-control. There have been like a couple of times where I was just like, I'll sit there and I'll write like the rudest response back to a rude email. And then I'll just stop. I'll send it to myself. I'll go sleep on it. And yeah, work through things like that. Yeah, even through ChatGPT, you can use ChatGPT and send them a like a block of back and forth text between someone and ask them like, what do you think is going on here? who is in the right, who's in the wrong, how should I respond to it. Like, it's pretty crazy. I have done that and it works quite well. So anyway, quite a bit. Thanks for listening. I hope this helps